We have a lot to talk about in today's news. How you pay for World of Warcraft may be about to change, and it's not Blizzard's doing. Meanwhile, Blizzard have quietly reversed a stubborn UI decision that has a lot of people, honestly, rather jubilant for Midnight's launch, and the gearing system is getting some reworks again. Plus, there is something on the cash shop that it seems they really didn't want you reading the fine print on. Of course, as I do this, Midnight launches within hours, so here's everything going on and everything that's changed. But you know what's even more satisfying during a new expansion launch? DoorDashing a whole bunch of food, or Deliveroo here in the UK. But you know what's less satisfying? The people who know your address getting data breached. And in October 2025, an employee of DoorDash fell for a scam and attackers walked off with names, addresses, and phone numbers. It was the third breach in 6 years, and that's why I use today's sponsor, Incogni, because it helps me fight back. You see, whenever data leaks, it gets everywhere. Brokers harvest it, they sell it on. If you ever wondered how a spam caller got your number, it's that kind of thing. And Incogni solves the problem by automating the legal work you'd otherwise have to do manually. And you can join at incogni.com/Bellular Warcraft for 60% off the annual plan. And it's simple, you enter your info, and that's basically that. Now, you see, you've got a legal right to get your data taken down. But doing that manually takes hours and isn't permanent. Incogni scans the broker, sends takedown requests, and adds you to suppression lists automatically. And they've also added custom removals where if you spot your info anywhere online, you can just paste them the link and their team will look into the problem for you and see if they can handle it. And here's my own personal dashboard. I've got 259 takedowns sent, 253 completed, 6 in progress, and I'm on 22 suppression lists. And they're monitoring 23 of the brokers to ensure they're being compliant. It's a great peace of mind, and 60% off at incogni.com/Bellular Warcraft. First up, the big story. Phil Spencer is out of Xbox leadership, Sarah Bond is out, and now Asha Sharma, formerly of Instacart and a few other places like Microsoft Core AI, is the new CEO of Microsoft Gaming. And that actually does matter to us WoW players, because there's one thing that's leaked out of all that upheaval that is significant. Apparently, Microsoft are exploring putting World of Warcraft subscription onto Game Pass Ultimate. So not just the game, actually the subscription as well, along with the likes of Fallout First and Minecraft Realms. Now this comes from Jez Corden at Windows Central. It's unconfirmed. He does have a strong track record on Xbox internals though. And here's why it matters, right? Game Pass Ultimate went up in price. It's £23 a month in the UK. WoW is £9.99 a month in the UK. So if you already have Game Pass, and a lot of people do, your WoW subscription would suddenly just be included. And even if you don't have Game Pass, well, that would be one subscription getting you WoW, Fallout 76, if that's the MMO-ish thing if you're choosing, Minecraft Realms, Elder Scrolls Online, and of course the entire Game Pass library. Which is honestly a compelling enough deal. You just gotta play all those games, though obviously you won't own them and you'll have to keep on paying, and that does mean, yeah, you'd be vulnerable to any future price hikes. Price hikes are not a new thing for Microsoft services. Now, if the rumor is true, it wouldn't be just because they're generous. You see, Game Pass lost subscribers after the price hike of last October. Revenue, basically, from content and services had dropped 5% in the last quarter, so basically, them bundling in some other premium subscriptions that people already pay for could be a way to, I guess, make the £23/$30 a month for Game Pass Ultimate feel worth it again. And of course, if you're a WoW player and you've already got that subscription, well, it would be pretty good for us. Of course, we'll have to see if it actually happens. And with that said, let's start talking about stuff in the game right now, right as Midnight's coming out. If you're a healer, this story is really quite enormous. As of last week's hotfixes, important healer buffs are now getting priority sorting in the raid frames. This is the likes of Riptide, Atonement, Echo, Rejuvenation, Beacon of Light, and Renewing Mist. These are all now going to sort to the front of your tracked buffs now, and that means you'll be able to see them at a glance. And before this, the community resorted to genuinely absurd workarounds. As an example, some people were replacing unnecessary buff icons with blank images in their actual WoW game files, which would mean that those things would not display at all, meaning they would only see the things that they wanted to see. Other people were making important icons just massively oversized or super bright colors just to be able to pick them out. Now, some of these workarounds, a little bit goofy, but also technically borderline against terms of service. But thankfully, Blizzard have just fixed that problem. But that's not the only thing. because that's a small change in comparison to the next Midnight thing, which is that in Midnight, many healing spells, self-buffs, and long-term raid buffs are no longer classified as secret auras by the game, and that means the default UI will actually be able to surface them. You'll be able to see, say, what's active without having to rely on add-ons that would be, digging around beneath Blizzard's own restrictions. This is really good, and it's a strong reversal as well. The secret aura system meant that the UI was hiding critical information from people. We knew why they had done that, right? It was the whole arms race against add-ons, but this was an instance where it was really quite rough. So what this basically means is healers are going to be having a better time with their UIs, and some restrictions that I think a lot of people felt were quite awkward have been removed. That is very, very welcome indeed. And next, something that's perplexed people, and that's class tuning. Here's something unusual. Blizzard have published a specific tuning schedule. It has dates, it has reason, it has all of that stuff, and they've posted it in advance, which they don't often do. So there will be no more class tuning until March 17th. That's the launch of Season 1. Then there'll be a second pass arriving March 24th. That will be using Heroic Week data, because of course that's when Mythic Raid and Mythic Keystone Dungeons open. Then further passes on March 31st and April 7th will happen, which are timed around the March Unquelled Nass raid being available, and then roughly a month after that. Now, I saw some saying this was Blizzard going quiet, and Lamau, look at this, we now have a roadmap for our class balance stuff. But I actually think this is just them being a lot more transparent and talking overtly about when tuning happens and why it happens. Having specific dates and the like will actually help people know what to expect. Honestly, I think that's a fairly good thing. And certainly for the class balance team, they have their work cut out for them. Now for something a bit different that you can actually look at. The Charger and Thessalian Charger have now been updated with brand new HD models. Gotta say, they're really gorgeous. Now, the mount entry still exists in your collection, but basically the models have been swapped out, and there's no option to use the classic version. Which I know could frustrate some, but it is kind of consistent because the Paladin Divine Steed ability was already updated in the pre-patch, where the Alliance would get a blue Charger, the Horde would get a red, and, well, now these Chargers are just there for the mount. And there's also a new relinquished Scarlet Charger that's coming from a Midnight quest as well. There's no official word from Blizzard on any of this, but my god, these mounts look absolutely fantastic. I think the Human Paladin mount especially just, 10 out of 10. Now, Blizzard have updated old mounts before, but swapping the model out entirely with no classic option is a little bit unusual. We have seen things like it. I mean, Druid Form's got a full overhaul back in Dragonflight 10.2, so they're clearly willing to go there. But the question is, will this extend further? Are the actual classic racial mounts coming next? That could be an interesting marketing beat from Blizzard if they were to do it. But okay, let's move away from mounts, let's move towards gear. The crest and upgrade system got reworked on beta this week, and here's the TLDR of it. You'll probably want to remember these numbers. So, upgrades now cost a flat 20 crests per tier. Now that is up from 15 in the War Within, but crucially, it's flat, and there are no more escalating costs. You see, earlier on Midnight Beta, the cost actually scaled from, I believe, 10 all the way up to 50, which was getting quite a lot, and would have amounted to 150 crests to completely upgrade one piece of gear. Thankfully, that bit is now dead, and a full upgrade from Tier 1 to Tier 6 will cost 100 crests total. There's also changes to crafted ones. Crafted gear now costs 80 crests, up from 60, but the weekly crest cap has been raised up to 100, which is up from 90. So it is a little bit more expensive, honestly, I'll say. From my time playing The War Within, I think that is basically warranted. And there is another nice thing as well, which is that the discount on alts is now 50%, up from 33%. So, fairly good. Now, there are some other changes. Every upgrade track has now been standardized to 6 tiers. Some previously had 8. And each track now only requires 1 crest type. And that would mean, for an example, no more mixing hero and myth crests for the same bit of gear on the same track. So essentially that's Blizzard doing a simplification of how it works. So what it comes out to is that on paper, each piece does cost a bit more than it did in The War Within, but in practice, I think the system is a good bit cleaner, and I think it's also a good bit more friendly, especially if you're playing more than one character. And remember, Valor Stones are no longer a thing, so you're not going to be held back in them. And you may be actually sped up by something happening mid-season that's just been data mined. Data mining turned up what appears to be Midnight's mid-season catch-up system. It's called the Void Forge. Basically, it's a quest chain from an NPC called Decimus in Voidstorm. You will collect Void Core shards from raids, dungeons, and delves, 6 in total, so it looks like it maybe has a 6-week unlock cadence. And it seems that's the case because a hidden tracker in the game files labels it as 12.0 mid-season, which is the same pattern as previous catch-up systems. What does it do? Well, we don't exactly know yet. It could be currency-based gear, it could be new upgrade paths, or something else entirely, but the infrastructure is there in the game files. They're clearly planning something, so if you fall behind mid-season, there is a safety net coming. And there's actually something that isn't here in this season. There is no renown track for the new raids, so maybe some of the power gains that people used to get just from that renown track going up will be shifted over to this system. Let's move away from combat and over to endeavors. Blizzard have been iterating on these fast since Housing Early Access launched. To go over what's changed, the XP cap per endeavor has gone from 1,000 to 2,250. A very welcome change. That cap was really aggravating people. The diminishing returns floor has been raised from 20% to 50% of the base rewards. The first completion requirement has dropped from 1,000 to just 400 XP, and generic task XP has jumped from 10 all the way up to 50, and the diminishing returns now reset weekly. These are all good changes. They're responsive, they're fast, they're exactly what this system is needed. A lot quicker than the, I think, fairly awful launch day first impressions that this system got. However, there is something that's raised eyebrows. It's a new weekly quest. It's called Community Engagement, and it now rewards upgrade crests, 20 Hero, 40 Champion, or 60 Veteran. And it rewards those for completing neighborhood endeavors. Now, this is a bit weird because Blizzard said housing would not be a source of player power. The Endeavor fixes do show that they're broadly listening on this feature, but quietly attaching upgrade crests to the housing system feels like a shift in principle. I mean, it's supposed to be that if you don't want to engage with this thing, you don't really have to. If they put a bunch of crests there, I think people will kind of feel like they have to, and it's maybe a bit concerning if Blizzard feels like they need to just lure people in with some player power just to partake in the Endeavor. So, not really sure about that. Not really sure if it'll make it live or they'll quietly kill it, but perhaps the line has moved. And speaking of lines moving, there's something about the housing bundle. You know the housing decor bundle that's currently in the store? You know, the one with the plushies? Well, here's something a bit weird. It's a limited time bundle, and Blizzard customer service actually confirmed this over on Twitter. Now, this is a bit weird because normally limited time bundles get a prominent disclaimer saying they are limited time. And you'll have seen these in the Battle.net store, the in-game shop, and the top of the blog posts that Blizzard does. But for this one, it is a tiny bit at the very bottom of the article. There's nothing in the store page and there's nothing in-game. Now this bundle isn't particularly egregious, it's just some plushies, but that's not really the point here. The point is, it is a time-limited bundle thing, and it does feel weird the way that it hasn't been properly, I guess, disclaimed on the in-game store, how it got a little bit buried. I don't know where they're going with this, but I do know the Hearthsteel store has, at the very least, the potential to be a bad look for a premium game like World of Warcraft. I know that a lot of people are concerned about, say, slippery slopes and how the store is ran. Maybe this is just a worrying indicator. Time to rapid fire through some fun and goofy stories. So, Blizzard did a Warcraft Pinterest collaboration for Midnight. It was a wee bit weird, but what was more weird is that people who engaged with it sometimes found themselves getting suspended. Not from World of Warcraft though, but from Pinterest. The issue has been fixed, but yeah, kind of funny. Another nice thing in the game, though, is the March trading post. Basically, I'm mentioning this because it's big Night Elf month. If you want your Night Elf themed weapons and stuff, and the HD Mage Weave sets, well, you can go and get those. There is another thing also live in the game, which, hey, I guess you can do instead of Midnight Early Access. It's the Outland Cup. It's live, and it's live with transmog items that weren't in the game in its first incarnation, but now are available. Also then, there are new animated shorts out. There's Son of Two Worlds for Arator and All That Is Sacred for Liadrin. And I gotta say, if you're about to step into Quel'Thalas, maybe for the first time, the Arator short is absolutely worth a watch. And as for Liadrin, well, I've done a full deep dive on that one, so you should check that video out next. But maybe before you do, there's a free housing decor item, the Naturally Elegant Doormat, that's available through a Zillow collab. It's claimable through to September on the collab website, and extra copies are available in-game near the trading post. So, that's everything. Midnight launches very soon indeed. I'll see you in Call for Last, and if you want to know what's up with that Liedrin cinematic and how it basically is exactly what Warcraft needs to be, exactly what it should be, just peak, watch this video next.